Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rathi Dashkar. If you don't already know, I'm the Global Youth Lead for the World Women Foundation and the Global Youth Ambassador for the Heidi Zium Foundation, which is the Swiss UNESCO Foundation, and I'm the host of my own podcast, Girls Talk STEM. And today we're here to have a conversation dialogue about the Global Wealth and Equality Moonshot Dialogue. And I want to invite Ms. ALINA, who is an international journalist, and be moderating this panel. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to this very interesting panel where we're going to be looking at, international global wealth, gender equality, and how the outlook is at the moment and how it can be improved. Now, please welcome Amy Low, Chairman UBS Global Wealth Management Asia and Head and Chief Executive of UBS Hong Kong, Dr. Nicole GOLDIN, Non-Resident Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council's GeoEconomics Center and Head of Equitable Development at the UN University Center for Policy Research, and also PRITI GUPTA, founder of LXME and also co-promoter of Anand Rathi Group. An applause for our expert speakers. I'm going to jump straight in with questions, but first a very brief introduction. We're living through very turbulent financial and geopolitical times, and inequality is very evident and very clear across the board, in Europe, in the States, in emerging economies, in Asia, everywhere. From all points of view, from a financial point of view, from a gender point of view, from social points of views as well. And this is the angle we'll be taken with our discussions today. I'm going to start throwing questions out to our experts here, inviting them to grab whichever one interests them, and to grab, talk and amongst yourselves as well. We were going to make this a sort of conversation, as it were. So my first question is, what do you see today as the most urgent global challenge in wealth equality? And why should the world pay attention? What is your focus at the moment? Because all three of you are very much on the forefront of these challenges and of these issues.
If I may kick off.
Please do.
Obviously, the polarization of wealth is one of the big issues. But if we deep dive, particularly relevant for women, we have also seen the persistent kind of widening gap on wealth accumulation for women, meaning women accumulate less wealth. Okay, and actually on UBS, we also publish a lot of thought leadership kind of report. And if I look at the gender pay kind of a report, it also shows that for the women, basically, especially for women over 65, they earn income less 25% compared to men. If you look at globally, the income earned is only 51% compared to men. So, I mean, definitely that's a gap there, okay? And why should we bother? Because on one hand, the challenge is there because women outlive men. And if you look at Hong Kong as a city, now is the city with the longest lifespan for women, 88 years old. Versus men, 82 years old. So certainly, the kind of healthcare costs, if we don't have enough wealth, and also, these are the challenge, but there are also opportunity. If we can address it with all this kind of financial inclusion, certainly it will promote growth, productivity, career opportunity, meaning employment, and there's also the report that we published. Yeah. Basically, we are talking about additional, just closing the gap, 7 trillion kind of GDP. And if we can have well, equality among the gender, we're talking about 22 to 28 trillion. So that's significant. That's why I think this matters.
It matters hugely, but you wanted to say something.
No, absolutely. That 7 trillion number was top of my mind as well as an economist. I'm all about data and statistics. And if you don't manage it, you don't measure. If you don't measure it, you don't manage it, right? And if we don't surface the data, if we don't tell the real story in an evidence-driven way, that's part of making the case. So that 7 trillion number. But just to unpack that a little bit further, another recent study that came out is this idea of the gender distortion, right? And so the World Bank has a new index out, and unpacking that further, it shows that if you close the wage inequality gap, some of the legal and regulatory barriers that are present in a lot of countries, which we can unpack that a little more, the labor force participation gap, the fact that women are much less likely to be in the workforce in the formal economy in many countries, in particular where I work, in the emerging markets, in the developing economies, that if you close that in many countries, that output at a country level, the output can raise by 20%. So, it's 7 trillion globally, which is huge. But when you look at it at the country level, but it's also what it means to women as individuals, right? You also want to think about the people behind the numbers. And we know that when you invest in women, and I think this came up in the earlier panel that I heard as well, when you invest in women, when women have more earnings and higher earnings, what do? They invest that back into their families. They invest that back into their communities. So you have a generational dividend. There is a generational payoff from investing in women that is really critical. And when we think about the challenges, and as you said, this is an uncertain time. We're still in many places even recovering from, dare I say, the COVID economy, which disproportionately affected women, whether it was business closures, whether it was some of the other issues. So we have a lot of these issues in a lot of the countries where I work. You have global debt challenges, which again, ultimately disproportionately impact women, because when countries have less resources, when they have debt overhangs, there's less money to invest in infrastructure, in health, in education, in all of the things that we know matter for women. So we have a gap, but to Amy's point, and hopefully we'll get to hear a little bit more on some of the opportunities, whether it's in digital or financial inclusion, and I know that's something that Priti is going to talk about as well. So the opportunity's there, we just need to realize it.
Yes, do.
It's so delightful to do this first thing in the morning, because this is just what I do for a living. It's a passion, and to be on stage with 4 women talking about this, bridging this gap, and the fact that this is not, when we started, we thought it was just my country, which is India, problem, only to realize it's not. It's the same globally, right? And we did some on your point of the gender pay gap. We did actually a study in LXME. So I run a company called LXME, it's pronounced Lakshmi, named on the goddess of wealth. And it's the dichotomy we are addressing, that we pray to the goddess of wealth, but when it comes to taking charge of our money, we sort of shy away. And we did this study where we realized that a woman loses close to about $3 million in her earning lifespan because of the gender pay gap. But she loses close to 6 million because of the suboptimal choices that she's making with her money. And that is what we are addressing. We're saying, gender pay gap, as that resolves and the world comes together to resolve it, it'll take its time, because it needs the entire ecosystem to come together. But the one thing that every woman can solve for herself is taking charge of at least the money that she's earning and making sure that she creates her own financial security or wealth. And on your numbers, we did this study in India where women today in workforce, and I think that's the opportunity that we have as a country. Over the last 5 years, we've doubled women in workforce. So we went to a very dismal 17%, and today we are 40%, almost close to 40% women in workforce, right? Which
Fantastic.
means that India today can add close to $1.5 trillion in the next few years just with women earning. On our capital markets, the country has created a wealth of about $7 trillion in the last 5 years. Just, if they'd invested in capital markets, right? Capital markets and gold, something that we love, right, as a country. Now, if you were to take this $1.5 trillion of earning and actually women start investing that, growing their wealth, taking charge of their money, you could look at that $7 trillion in India. So, that's an absolute opportunity that we're looking at. And I think we've, all of us realize that when women have managed money, have agency over money, only good things happen. And I always say that this is not a men versus women conversation. But I think when women join in, then it's not redistribution of wealth. It's actually addition of wealth. And we actually yesterday just released a report, a preview of a report that we're going to do in February end. And I think we've been building Lakshmi for 5 years. And my co-founder Rathi is here. And I have to say, it's not been easy. It has been challenging. But we finally understand that giving a standardized product offering that people give generally is not what's going to work. You have to be where women are. You have to work along their behavior. And that's a blueprint today we have. And we hope we're sharing it with the world. And we hope it's taken globally. Because what we want, given what's happening currently and what's, all the conversations, geopolitical and, economic uncertainty, I think it is the women who will bring that stability. Because we believe in sustainability, we believe in peace, we believe in the future. If there is a way to invest in climate, it'll be the women who will put their hands up first. So therefore, I think women need to have that money in their hands. And globally, this is something along with climate and sustainability that all of us need to work together on.
I think you had, did you have an answer or did you have a point to make? Or shall
I think while we witness so many challenges, I'm also optimistic as well. Particularly, I also told ALINA earlier for UBS, post-merger, we are now managing 7 trillion assets globally. And I do believe that UBS has a big corporate responsibility to also look at how we can turn some of this capital into philanthropic capital. And that's also the reason why we are built to also roll out a lot of different initiatives. We have our own charitable foundation called Optimus Foundation. And in the last 25 years since the setup, we also raised 1.5 billion assets, impacting 5 million children. And I think the other optimism that I have is that I was also telling ALINA, in Hong Kong, we also set up I'm one of the founders for a women CEO network in finance. We have over 60 women CEO in finance. And these are not talking about small players. It's HSBC, Citibank, Standard Chartered, JP Morgan, Stock Exchange, the SFC, the regulator, the sovereign wealth fund. So, and what we are doing together is also pushing the agenda, because I also chair one of the advocacy committee. And I was also sharing with ALINA how we can make the impact, for example, is women representation in the board seat, in the LISCO. So how we can drive change, better investment decision, better risk management, and also attract talent, and also how they can influence this corporate responsibility. And so I think on that note, you have something to say.
I mean, there's so much to say. We can all talk all day. How much time do we have? It's such great points. And I'm so glad you spoke about the important and the work that you're doing around women in leadership and economic society. And it's at all levels, right? It's critical whether we are looking at it from a corporate, and certainly that's really critical. I want to think about corporate workplace policies, the care economy, right? We know that when there's care, and whether that's employer provided or public provided, it makes a huge difference. But it's also when we look at, there's progress being made in sort of women in financial and sort of public sector leadership, whether that's as ministers of finance, the numbers are small but growing, leadership in some of the bigger multilateral development banks and more of the global space and the international financial institutions. But it's global, it's national, it's local, because we know women are sort of leading in their families, but that leadership is really critical. And just to pick it up and turn it back to you and to ALINA, I'm so glad you brought up the point about increasing the actual wealth of women. But I think it's really important to talk about in service. I know this is something you're also working on. When women have access to money and resources, that they are actually able to make those investments. And it's not just about, when we think about sort of the financial inclusion question, it's nice to see the conversation has started to move from financial inclusion and just having a bank account, where we've closed a lot of that gender gap, right, in terms of women actually owning a bank account. But it's then the next level of services. Are they able to actually have brokerage accounts, right? Are they investing? Are they able to get insurance, whether it's for their small business or if they're farming, to get the crop or the weather insurance, right? So it's the much broader range of access to not only be able to earn money, but to protect that money, to deploy that money. So it's about earning, protection, spending, and the broader range of sort of financial access, financial inclusion that's going to generate financial health and security. That is what we sort of really need to really see this catalytic effect from women having money and being able to use it.
Yeah, and I mean, so well said. And I think one of the things that we always talk about is today, in today's world, you know, because digital has become so widely accepted and it's so deeply penetrated across, access is not the challenge. It's the agency that is the challenge. And which is why I think there is a different structure, different system that needs to be created. And that's a huge opportunity because, again, given the fact that today, you know, understanding behavior, hyper-personalizing to a certain behavior, one of the things we learned while we were building LXME was women actually left the entire piece of managing money because of the lack of time. Because women were managing homes, they were managing children, they were managing everything else, work, all of it, right? So there's this one thing that was left, and it was probably left to somebody in the family or just left alone, right? And if you solve for all these obstacles that they have, which can be beautifully solved digitally.
So how
Then
do you ensure that agency exists in everyday life? Because that's a huge challenge. How do you do that?
Absolutely. So you actually, like I said, what we've done, and I've run a very large wealth management and investment firm in India. I did that for 25 years. And we would expect that women would come to us just like men would reach out for investment. That was the first mistake we made. Women don't do that. Women are not looking out to saying, how do I invest my money? So you have to go where they are. And where are they? They're there digitally spending money, earning money, and you've got to go there and embed a journey that works for them. And that's what we've done in LXME. And I think it's very important to understand that, you know, when we started LXME, we were asked this question all the time. I think Rathi and I got tired of answering it. Why do you need a separate platform only for women, right? And today, nobody's asking that because now we have a proven model of saying, okay, women have come onto the platform. But one critical aspect, which is very different to how financial services works for men versus women, is that there is a lot of education, literacy that needs to be a part of it, because women, and again I say this on every platform, that stop saying women are risk averse. We are not. We are risk aware. If you make me understand what my money is doing, where is it going, what are the risks associated, I will take a very informed decision. Because I have the ability to take a very balanced decision. That is the reason why world over, women fund managers give you a slightly, maybe even if 100 basis points better return than other fund managers. So I think the gap to be closed is one, be where they are, give them that structure where we are, and give them that structure that they can traverse and navigate easily. Build in a lot of literacy and education, and that too bite-sized, where just the exact amount that is needed. You don't need to be a market expert to invest your money. So closing all those gaps is what we've learned, and that's how we've built Lakshmi. And today, I think with 1 million women on the platform, it says for a lot that, okay, this is solvable.
Fantastic success story. Amy, you had something to say.
To close the gap, I don't think one size fits all, and there are different segments. And if we talk about the underprivileged one, whereby the philanthropy, because that's also the reason why we do a lot of social finance and also blended finance, and how we can educate and help them to be sustainable, to be successful. So that's where the philanthropic capital will come in. Then the other one is the women, because actually for UBS, among our clientele, 46% of our clientele are women globally. So that's the reason why we also launched a global women wealth program to educate our bankers, to really address the needs of the client, to help them to be more successful. And so that's one part. And the other part is that, for example, yesterday, I had a meeting with one of the CEO of a big list call, and a woman. And she said she has no time for her finance. And so that's also another set of client and also women that we need to address and equip them. What they need is holistic. I have no time. My time is for family and then full time for business. I am sure a lot of us are the same. Okay, and then the other one is also startup. We are very much in the technology sector, helping also all the startup. But sadly, only less than 20% of the startup are women. And 2% of the venture capital goes to women. So that's the reason why UBS, we also set up the Women Founders Award. And what we do is to help them, to nurture them, to coach them, and also give them the network and funding. That's the powerful kind of resources that we can give them. And then we won the award. And this is a global for the 5th time. So I think one size doesn't fit all to address the needs to address the gap. And we need to tailor make. And by collaborating both public and private, this is very powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, just to sort of pick up on that, I mean, and you hit upon this earlier, but the contextual, the recognizing that women are clearly not just one category. When we say women need to earn more, right? And so you have women not only in different, in different countries, in different regions. Women in India want and need different things and have different aspirations potentially, than women in Ghana or women in Hong Kong or what have you. But they're also there are older women who may want to stay in the workforce longer or maybe not. You have young women and girls that are sort of just coming up. So we really need to think about kind of the life cycle, what women need throughout their lives, financially, economically, and how we can provide it. But I mean, just to your point on the credit, when this is also, I think, where some of the digital and financial innovation is really critical, because it is enabling many women, for example, to utilize different kinds of data, and some of these platforms are able to help build credit histories, provide credit in small ways, different algorithms or what have you, but also, again, through the platforms, utilizing, whether it's blockchain, utilizing AI, and just different digital tools and fintech products. We have a new report out of the Atlantic Council on the global majority, which is going back to this idea of the larger share of the world's population that are not fully financially served. In financially health, but and a large portion of that majority is women, right? And so we can't over rely on the digital and financial tools, and we need the digital and financial literacy to make them accessible and usable. But I think that is something we really need to think about.
I wanted to ask you, what bold steps have you taken or have you seen taken? Have you sort of looked at and thought, wow, that really works, to create innovative solutions for women's financial empowerment?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
I think that's what we do for a living. There's an everyday trial, everyday error, everyday learning, and everyday success. So I think I have to say that, building what we have been, like I said, has had its share of aha moments, because you assume when you come from a certain background, especially financial services, that's how things would work. And you're very, very pleasantly surprised that this is not the way it works, right? And we've, one of the bold steps that, first of all, starting a platform which is just for women to invest in by itself was very bold, because, when we went to investors and they would be like, why do you need a platform for women? It's not going to work. It's not something that women do, right? Because majority of the investors are men. But, from there onwards, I think starting that platform and then really creating. So, for example, we made our platform very community-led, literacy-led, very content-led, which was completely different to what any financial services does, right? Also, a lot of storytelling. The way we did things was very, very different. People tell us, oh, you're making finance simple for women. I said, women are not stupid. They don't need it simplified. They need it relatable. They need to know how this will work for them. And once you do that, that works. I think the last thing that we've done recently on our platform is we've actually launched payments. Something that I would have never thought as an investment advisor that would, that it would go hand in hand with investment. But one of the learnings we had is that if you connect the dots right from where they make payments, digital payments, and we realized that women, one of the reasons, and I think you would agree with me, is women, companies don't reach out to women customers is because they take very long to actually make that investment decision. Given how it is set up, very incentive-driven industry, people choose to go after the low-hanging fruit, so women are left behind. And what we realized was it's because women take time to form trust. There's a difference in behavior. Men form trust with transaction. If there's an offering, men will take it up, they will transact and say, oh, if it works, it's great. I trust it, this platform. Women build trust first and then transact, right? And that's why it takes longer time. And one of the things we realized that because payment is very intuitive, if you actually help build trust with payments first, then that journey gets really shortened. And that's the blueprint, that's part of our blueprint as well. So it was very bold. We were told, oh, payments is a very, very difficult space to be in. But we did launch, just in October, we've launched what we call LXME Pay, which is similar to Google Pay. And no, we're not competing with Google Pay because our audience is very different. We have a gender disaggregated data, right?
Fantastic. What a success story. Amy?
As I said earlier, because one of the financial trend happening right now is the intergenerational transfer of asset. This is a pivotal moment whereby we have seen significant asset being transferred and also the increasing women investor, rising investor for women. And so I think one of the bold steps we do is that this is a trend, this is the need of the client. That's why earlier I talked about rolling out the Global Women Program, Wealth Program, to educate, as well as the Women Founders Award. At the same time, on the philanthropy side, what we have done is we have been doing 9 years. For example, if I may share with you one of the projects that's very close to my heart, is in China. We basically work with an NGO to help primarily maternity, the women who have problem, and especially infant mortality. Because in remote part of China, and we are mainly on 2 cities. One is Tibet, one is Qinghai. So by providing more advanced kind of medical appliances to help those, to equip them to treat the really critical, ill kind of infant or newborn babies. So that's one. And the other one is that we actually just one, and I'm so touched because in one of the cases, public information that just one of the Hong Kong top family, they donated $100 million through our Optimus Foundation to help the children who have heart disease. And so they can relive their life. And we matched $10 million. So And finally, one thing more, just I find this kind of forum perfect because we need to have more voices, get our voices heard. So at UBS, especially in Asia, I make the point that whenever we host any conference, we need to have women speakers. And actually, before I came in here, we hosted a conference in Hong Kong. It's the Investment Outlook 2000 participants. To the extent it's a bit even skewed to women because we have 60% women speaking in the forum. And these are the next gen women CEO and also chair lady and also the whole CIO team's lady talking and sharing. I think that's very powerful. You need to get our voices heard. If we talk about literacy, actually it's the confidence level because according to one of our survey report, only 9% of the women survey, they feel they can perform investment better than men. So it's the confidence level, it's the literacy. So I think by creating more forum, it will help. Sorry.
No. Carry on. Well, let's wrap up with one quick, short question because we are running out of time. How would you measure, in a couple of sentences, if you want to summarize it, how would you measure the long-term impact of investments and programs designed to empower women economically? How can we measure those? Nicole.
Oh, me first. No, I mean, it's a great question, and I'll sort of pick up on the last one in answering it. I mean, I think part of it goes back to one thing I said earlier is the generational impact. So one of the bold ideas that, is maybe not seem so bold, but is starting early. It's integrating financial literacy, financial education, and now also digital tools in education into school curriculums. I mean, I was involved in programs when I was working with the World Bank that were inculcating this into curricula in early grades, right? So that's a kind of, that may not seem bold, but can have a generational impact. So on this question, I think we need to measure generationally. We need both short-term and long-term data metrics, but we need to think about it more broadly than I think we have been. So it is about, do women have a bank account? Are they using that money? Are they investing? Are they getting the return? Are they getting the capital that they need? And are they then, looking at it from a much more holistic perspective than we have been, and really linking it to just our broader kind of financial economic empowerment and well-being?
I don't know about you, but I could carry on talking about this all day.
I know we're at finish.
But
we're
very,
at finish.
very, okay.
Yeah, I do have one thing to say on this. I think the only one point I would put here is that we need to make this, the reason that LXME is for profit is because we realized the minute you run it as an initiative, that's when you start having difficulties around how you measure it. It starts looking as something that you do on the side. Run all of this because it's a great opportunity. We've all understood. Run it for profit. That's when the world will change and you'll be able to measure. Because
Wonderful.
The profitability on something like this is, it's like a long-term, lifetime financial balance sheet that you're building.
Wonderful. Amy, last, very quick.
Very quick, clear, definable, measurable kind of KPI. And these are the things that women are very good at. If I look at also the women sitting in the board, that's why this is also the agenda we've been pushing quite hard. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I think the world is in safe hands if we all take this approach.